Hey guys, it's Shue, and today I want to show you guys a way that I've been color grading my images inside Photoshop. Actually, this is the way I've been processing my images lately. It gives me a lot of control of exactly how I want it to look, and it does so non-destructively, and I can change it anytime I want. And I just really like this way, and it's a method that I've used in bits and pieces on my own workflow in the past. However, I have never put it together in a package the same way I learned from Joey L from Creative Live. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create two curves layers. Okay. And the bottom one, we're going to call this one contrast. And the top one, we're going to call grade, because it's going to be the color grade. Okay. So in the contrast, now I did a tutorial on this before, but I didn't add the toning to it. And I'll show you how that works. So contrast, the benefit of using curves for contrast adjustment is this. First of all, here's the shadows and here's the highlights. So if we want to add a lot of contrast, you drag down your shadows and increase your highlights, because that's what contrast is. It's the relationship between the highlights, or the bright parts of the image, and the shadows, or the dark portions of the image. But when you adjust with a curve, you notice how it kind of rolls off in an edge. It affects all of the other tones around the actual one that you're adjusting. So it kind of gives it a subtle roll off to the effect, so it affects the whole image. It gives you far more control than any other method of adjusting contrast. So there's my contrast. Now I'm going to go in and adjust my colors. Now, with the color grade selected, we're going to go in independently to each channel. And you have to know how to work with a color wheel, or you can play with it to figure it out. But say if I know that there's yellows in here. So if I grab the blue channel, I know that if I push up, I'm going to add blue. But if I go away, I'm going to add yellows. So if I want to control the amount of yellows in the scene, I can add blue to it. Now I know that the yellows in the highlights, or the lights, the lighting in the room. So that means that if I come here and I put a pin in the center and I just want to adjust the highlights, I can add blue just to the highlights and kind of neutralize that. But see, when I do this, if I don't pin this, see what will happen. What happens is with this curve is if I add something, you see how it wants to roll off all the way down? Well, if I want to just affect the highlights, I'll come in here and I'll create some pins on this guy so the curve can't move. Okay? And then when I adjust the highlights, it's not going to move. Maybe I need to add another pin here. And now I'm only affecting the highlights of the image. So I can either cool off those lights, is which I want to do. I don't want them to be so yellow. I'm going to add some blue. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and affect the reds. Now if I push up, I'm going to add more red. And if I pull down, I'm going to add blue. So if I want to cool the image off, I need to affect the shadow area, or the midtones. So I'm actually going to pin the highlights. Okay, and then I'm going to adjust and add some blue to the image. Okay, so I've cooled off the skin tones a little bit, and now I'm going to do something that's a little bit different. I'm going to go into the actually the green channel, and you see if I add green here or take away, I'm going to add magenta. I'm going to add some green into the shadows. Okay, I'm going to pull back here to kind of pink up a little bit. Okay, now that's kind of like my color grade is concerned. Even though it's a little bit over the top, this is where we're going to do our final adjustment to control how much of this effect is actually on the image. We're going to go into what's called the channel mixer. So we're going to add a channel mixer layer, and we'll call this one tones. Alright. So now that this is selected, you notice that it says total 100. Happens to be in default by red as 100%. You can control each channel independently, but if you go into monochrome, you can add these cool filters. So for example, if we add a blue filter here, okay, you see that its blue is 100%, but you can mix them. So this is kind of the look that Joey L does, is he puts this 80% on the blue, okay, and then he puts 20% on the green. And as long as you equal 100% at the bottom, you're not going to affect the exposure. But say if I add too much or take away, we're going to affect the exposure if it's below 100. So 80 and 20. And this kind of gives it that look that he has, where it's kind of like, it's got great contrast to the image, but the skin tones are still there. They're not too dark. Alright, so now this is where you take an effect how much this applies and interact with the image below. Is we'll take our opacity and see if we slide it all the way off, it's gone. But if we come somewhere around 30 or 40 on it, we can apply how subtle the color is to the image. So we can give it that nice soft look in color. Let's say if we come somewhere around 40%, it's got the overall tone that I wanted to it, and it's color graded, but it's not so in your face. So I can toggle on and off to show you how I can control the tones by using the channel mixer. So we'll save this file, and we'll go back into Lightroom, and I'll be able to revisit this if in a couple days I don't really like the way it turned out. So that's it. Taking full control of your contrast, your color grade, and the tones and how it's applied is a pretty strong way to post-work your images. I want to thank Joel for showing me how to do this, and I want to thank you all for taking time to visit today. So until next time, we'll see you soon.